Today, we're laying down the law.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Burnt on Religion, the podcast for those who have been burnt, who are currently burning, and those who are trying to avoid being burnt. I'm Ashton, and I'm stuck between two covert operators. This is Jeremy. This is Josh. Jeremy, you kind of give off a little Roger Moore / Sean Connery vibe.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a very
I just feel it coming over here. And Josh, I don't know what mission you're on, man, but you're dropping the ball. Shame on you. Shame.
Oh, you didn't give me a reference. I thought I was going to be like Pauly Shore or Martin Short or something.
Too good.
Oh, too good. Okay, too good. All right. Well, I stepped into that one myself. So, welcome back to Burnt on Religion. As you see, this is Ashton, and that guy over there is not Rusty.
Not Rusty today.
This actually is my brother. He came all the way from New Jersey to be part of this. The shenanigans we do here on the set. But the reason he is here, he's been helping us a lot with stuff we're doing in the ministry here this week. But also, we wanted to talk about something this week that has kind of saturated all three of our lives, and that is legalism, fundamentalism, I guess you could say. I don't know which category we would throw it in. But it's something that is so heavy and it gets really, really dark.
Yep.
So this idea of legalism, we're going to, hopefully we'll be nice. We are siblings and we're going to try to be the adult version.
We'll try to do that. It is very challenging.
Yes, we'll try to be the adult version of who we are rather than let our minds wander back into the past and then sucker punch each other. But we grew up in a very legalistic, but it's kind of blended, not as legalistic as other people had it, but we still were under the umbrella of legalism.
We were surrounded by legalism,
Right.
But we didn't always fit exactly into the mold.
We didn't play by all the rules.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Ashton, you did grow up in a legalistic home, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So all three of us have pieces we can play in this game here. We can put our cards out there and play this. So with us, let's get definitions down. Legalism, the way I understand legalism is the idea that you follow the law. You're following a law-based system. That's legalism. But the reason why I believed or define legalism is something that you do for righteous living. For righteous living. Is that how you see legalism? Where you obey the laws, that way you live in a righteous manner, or do you see it as something else, Ashton?
Well, I think that is a good starting point, I guess, because that's the way, from my perspective, in ways that's kind of how you're supposed to, you to live righteously, but then people take it, that extra mile,
Okay,
and start putting everything under the umbrella of do's and don'ts, and really put, I guess, I don't know if tightening the screws down on
Okay,
it makes sense,
right.
putting that pressure on you, and
for what purpose? If it's not righteous living.
I don't know. I get a combination of, the other person feels good by pointing out that you're how you're dressing, where you're going,
Okay.
what you're doing, what you're not doing, things like that.
Okay.
And I feel like that can be a very, very slippery slope,
Right.
because then it gets into judgment and shame and putting so much pressure on the people that they just can't live.
Okay, yeah.
Just their life.
Okay.
If that
Yes.
makes sense anyway.
And Jeremy, you have a different definition of legalism.
That's right. And what the odd thing is, we grew up in the same home.
Yes.
Since leaving our home, we've grown up and learned different things, and over the course of time, I guess one or the other of us have changed from where we originally stood. But
I think you fell off the wagon personally. If one of us had come.
anyone who knows you would know there's evidence that you may have fallen
Okay,
off the
all right.
wagon. Okay,
All right.
but
Round one.
no, a lot of people actually carry the definition that legalism is actually adding to means of salvation. So it would actually be something you have to do in order to acquire salvation. So any kind of works-based salvation would be leading into the realm of legalism.
Salvation through the law.
Salvation through the law. You have to do something in order to get salvation.
Okay.
So let's define, which one are we talking about today?
Well, this, okay, so I think it kind of blends both of them. You know, you can use both of them. To get salvation, the Bible says that nobody is justified by the law. But if you say justified for salvation, it falls under the definition you just threw out there.
That's right.
And if I say justified as far as being made right with God, it falls under my definition, and at the same time, it covers both. Justified could be either one.
Absolutely.
So that's probably why people have both definitions sitting out there. So Ashton, when you were growing up, what are some examples of legalism, which again is following the law for a purpose? You're following the legal system for or to accomplish something. So for you, were you accomplishing righteous living? Or were you accomplishing salvation? You grew up in Church of Christ, so we grew up Baptist.
It leaned more towards righteous living. For example, there's I know we kind of touched base off camera here, but like growing up, I couldn't go to dances, school dances.
Did you want to?
Oh yeah. There was
That's
a lot
hard
of time.
issue, sir.
Yeah, yeah. I did, and full confession, there was a time I did sneak out of the house and went to one, and that didn't end well. Did not end well at all. But
did the Lord smite you?
No, the parents did.
Okay, all right.
That hurts.
That does happen. Yeah.
Kind of wish it was the other way around, but
Right. You wish God smote you.
yeah, just please end it, please. But there's of course their reasoning was girls are going to be there, other guys are going to be there. They're going to try to pressure you into doing stuff.
Right.
You shouldn't be there because it could lead to you could put your hands on a girl, you could start kissing a girl and going down that road. And hindsight, I understand where they were coming from.
How old were you?
This is probably junior high-ish.
Yeah, that was good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand, in that moment, you're like, really,
Right, yes.
fighting the parents. But, I feel like there was, like, even extracurricular activities. Because I had to go to church Sunday, Wednesday, unless I'm in a coffin 6 feet under, you're going, don't care. And
Okay.
I could not do anything that, if the activity landed on a Wednesday, no.
Okay, so
You
what if
just
it
don't
was
do it.
basketball or volleyball or something like that where you were involved, but the practice fell on Wednesday every once in a while? Would you not be able to enroll into that program because there was a Wednesday coming up? Was it that?
The explanation I was given was God always comes first, which he should. God comes first, then the family, and then everything else is just like icing on the cake. And so if it was outside the family, which was extracurricular activities, that didn't happen.
That family dynamic stays close in legalism. It really close.
Yeah.
Our upbringing, ours was a little, I don't know. So we'll back up a second here. So yours was church all the time?
Yes.
You were in church Sunday, Wednesday.
Yep.
If you were sick,
Yep. You
go
better
spread it to everybody.
You better, say if you're not, like, there was times I remember of course, there's also times I tried to play the card of, oh no, I feel hot. Get the little thermometer, and
Right.
it didn't work.
Right.
But then there's times, I mean, it's like, take some medicine. It'll kick it in 20, 30 minutes. That's long enough to get to church. You'll be fine.
Okay,
Drag yourself in there.
So just to kind of peek through the curtain of what's coming here, did it look the same at home as it did church? Life?
Light? No.
Okay, all right.
No.
So, okay.
No. Church was the one place you went to, and you could tell. Of course, the older I got, the more you could tell, because we talked about this a couple of other episodes. Like, the one thing I can't stand is hypocrisy. And the older you get, the more you see, like, okay, these people are nice. There's nothing wrong with them. Like I didn't understand why they were going to church. Like they're here.
Perfect people.
And then the moment you get into your car, or sometimes people would invite you over to their house and stuff, and then it's like, I mean, it is so hard to describe because it is nothing like how they were for that hour and a half, 2 hours in the
like it's a
church
bunch
building.
of doppelgangers.
Yeah, it's like what is going? Like, there's no way. I like. Even if I remember the face my dad made one time because we went over to some people's houses, and the kids were, I mean, like bouncing off the walls, misbehaving, saying stuff, doing stuff.
Right.
And I would get a look because I'm standing next to them. I'm like, I'm in somebody else's house. This is out of my control. What are you doing? And
Right.
You're like, that look of you better not start. And
Yeah.
it's
Now
just
you're
like,
associating with bad behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You're close enough. You must be guilty.
But that's when I started. I feel like that's kind of when I started mentally saying, like, this is. I wouldn't say a joke, but it's not right.
Okay.
There's just something not right about all this. But now I know it's really up to the individual how you
Right.
reflect yourself in Christ.
So you were a teenager when you started thinking, I want out of this church thing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, our upbringing was a little different. I don't know, Jeremy, let's go into our minds here, which is a horrifying place to go.
That is a bad place to
but,
go there. But yeah.
But growing up, our parents were missionaries. So we traveled a lot. We went from church to church, and my dad pastored a church in Oregon for 3 years. And ministry was always something we were part of. So we kind of got to see the church life, but we also got to see the ministry.
What he's trying to say is we were perfect.
Oh.
Yes.
I don't think
It's all right, Josh. I know you're not.
We were supposed to be perfect.
Okay, yes, that is. We were supposed to be perfect.
Everyone had to see us.
And of course, there came that stigma. That stigma came along with it that if you're a pastor's kid, we know you're not perfect because the pastor's kids always had that reputation of if somebody's going to sneak out of the house and go drinking at 13 years old, it's probably the pastor's kid. That's the stigma that was out there. So you really had to work really hard to fight that reputation that was given to you. You didn't even earn it. It was just yours. And when we went into church, it was all smiles. And I call it parking lot salvation, where you can argue all the way to church in your car. But as soon as you get out of your car and you're walking in, everybody put your smiles on and we'll continue this fight on the way home,
For us, it was walking across the parking lot because we lived on the church property. Actually.
Yes, right.
Oh, nice.
But I remember there was times where my mom would walk and have that loving look when we're walking across a parking lot to a church or whatever, that loving look where her hand was on our shoulders.
Oh.
What other people didn't see is she had that,
I know what you're talking about.
So you felt this before too?
The Klingon hole.
Yeah, that pressure point right there.
We really didn't know how to smile, but we couldn't get an actual smile out.
Yeah, our smile looked
going through our nerves.
That's right. Yeah, so we're fighting all the way. And if we're walking into the church and we decide to, get that last word into our sibling or whatever, Mom would she would lovingly place her hand on our shoulder and then squeeze that pressure point. We're like, oh, okay. And she'd just walk us all the way to our class, our Sunday school class, and then let us go. And we'd walk in like Quasimodo, like, oh. And we had some explaining to do when we got in there. But she would control us there because we're about to walk into the church and there was an appearance you had to have when you walked into the church. But we had situations like, were there dress codes or anything that you had?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and that was the viewpoint I had received was if you were to walk in front at the time when we had kings and queens and all that. I guess we kind of still do. But if you walked in front of a king and queen, what would you wear? And
yes.
And so you're sitting there like, well, I guess a dress shirt, some nice pants, and of course, as I'm trying to explain it, no, your best. You wear your best.
Right.
And so if you're going to church, you're going in front of the King of Kings. So
There you go.
shirt, tie.
That's the only place you can find him, right?
Yes.
That's where he lives,
Yes.
apparently.
That one building that you're
Right.
going to.
Yes.
And so it was, yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you how many button-up shirts and slacks I had versus t-shirts, jeans, and shorts. Like
Right.
it was
Suit
just, what?
You didn't have suit coats?
To a point, once you slowly grew up and started to kind of sort of dress yourself, the option was there, but the tie was mandatory.
Oh, yeah.
Right. A noose around your neck is required if you're going to see the King of
Yes.
Kings.
So yeah,
Yeah.
there was a dress code.
So the idea of a dress code goes farther than just wearing your Sunday's best, which, by the way, is not in the Bible anywhere, to make sure you have your Sunday's best. If you actually look in the scripture, it says a person that walks in, like the homeless guy off the street walks in, bring him to the front and give him the more honored seat. Don't put him in the back. Man looks on the outward appearance, God looks on the heart. We see stuff like that in the scripture, and yet we do what you're talking about right here with legalism and stuff. If you're going before the King of Kings, now there's that religious pressure.
Yep.
Like that shame-based, you honor him and do what I tell you to do because, well, righteous living.
Yep.
Righteous living. But ours went a little deeper. So, Jeremy, I'm gonna let you. You're a little younger than me, not by much, 3 years.
I'm the young one. I'm the baby.
So your brain might work a little more functionally than mine. So which isn't saying a lot.
So there's a mic.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, when it came to our past, when it came to legalism, it extended outside of the church. It wasn't just a show at the church. We had a lot of times where we would, for instance, camps. We go to a camp. They had the boys' cabins, the girls' cabins, and where would the boys be, Josh, when the girls went swimming? Do you remember?
In the cabin.
In the cabin, because we dare not look towards anywhere where those girls
No.
might be walking down the sidewalk in their culottes to go to the swimming pool.
In their culottes.
Which they would also, by
Yeah.
the way, while we're in the cabins, have to swim in their culottes,
That's right.
just because that's the modest apparel for swimming, and that amongst nothing but women, nothing but girls, they would be swimming in their culottes.
A t-shirt and culottes.
Yeah, t-shirt
Yes.
and culottes.
I was just trying to picture something from the 40s, whenever it
That
was
works. Yeah.
like is that okay?
So
Right.
Okay.
it extended into our camp environment as well, but it went even farther than that, because even within the homes, as an adult, when I met my wife, we went to a friend's house during the winter. They came from a very strong fundamentalist background, and we went sledding with the kids. And I mean, sledding in the snow in Pennsylvania, you got some good snow. They had some nice hills on the property, and it was a good opportunity. We go out there, and here I see all these young ladies come out in their snow pants, and behold, what was on top of those snow pants? Culottes.
Okay, so this is in a cold environment. This isn't swimming, so you're immodest.
No, this is this-
You're completely modest because it's winter. So what's the purpose of the culottes on top of the pants?
modesty.
Wow. Wow.
Modesty because
Wow.
there were holes in the pants. Modesty
No,
because
as far as I know, the pants were just fine. They were just covering, because women should not be wearing pants.
Okay. So we're
There's-
back to Leviticus.
I don't think I saw that in Leviticus. Women wearing pants in Leviticus.
No, it's just the man should not, or it might be Deuteronomy. I don't remember, but the man should not wear the apparel of a woman, and woman should not wear the apparel of a man. So therefore, men wear pants, so women can't wear pants.
But did men wear pants?
Back then?
Yeah.
No, I think the women wore the pants and the men wore the robes.
They actually-
Yeah.
Well, in Leviticus, the Bible does actually speak about the breeches.
Sure.
Who wore the breeches in that verse? You know,
Which verse are you talking about?
It's talking
You're
about-
talking Old King James.
yes, Old King James.
Yes.
Here. It's talking about the priestly attire.
Yes.
The only one who's mentioned as wearing these breeches, which is an undergarment, is actually referring to the priest.
Which are men.
So I guess that's where it came from. That's the closest thing I can find. But yeah, I mean, as far as pants as attire. It really
Right.
wasn't an outward attire at all.
Right. And if you look at other cultures in the world, there are some, like Scotland, the kilts. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, that's a very feminine pair of pants right there.
Not go to a Scot and tell him that.
Right. No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very manly thing to wear.
I dare you to stand in Edinburgh and tell one of those Scots that they're wearing a feminine
They are
attire
not.
here.
They'll
They
pull
are
out their
not.
sword and it's over.
Nowhere. Like Highlander.
By the way,
What is
the
going
amount
on?
of fabric they're carrying around in that kilt, it takes a little bit of work to walk around with all
Right.
that fabric.
But
so.
but in our culture, you look at it like that guy's wearing a skirt. So does the Bible not cross cultural barriers? On that topic of women can't wear pants. Well, look at Scotland. Look at the time where they wore kilts. Does the Bible not apply to them, or does it just apply to us? Or maybe we got it out of context, which of course is what we're talking
Yeah.
about. Is we got that out of context. And which is where legalism finds its pillow to rest its head on, is no context at all. It finds comfort zone in that. So even with the clothing thing, it's not only wear your best before the king, but it's also that modesty thing where pants fall under immodesty for women only.
Oh, yep.
But that same pair of pants is perfectly modest on a guy.
But the guys have rules too.
Well, dig deeper.
Oh.
Go deeper.
You guys are looking all right today, I guess. Ashton,
Thank
I don't
you.
know underneath those things. Does your hair touch your ears?
Yes.
Oh, Ashton. Oh my, we got to judge him. Josh, help me out here.
It's on this side only, maybe.
okay.
it's
My side's okay.
Yeah, is it on his ears?
No, he wouldn't make it.
Okay, yes,
Your
okay,
hair,
yeah.
gentlemen, your hair cannot touch your ears or your collar.
Right, yeah.
That is worldly influence.
And basically, you get that high and tight thing with the military.
Yeah.
Then you're good. Yeah. So and of course, military is legalistic.
Yeah.
They follow rules and laws and stuff for a purpose, and
That's right.
we understand that as for discipline and all that. But a lot of religious circles, it falls under that discipline category.
Yes.
And what are we disciplining them to do? Live righteously. Why? Because we want to make God happy. And what happens if you don't make God happy? You get smitten by your parents, I guess, because you were praying that God would get
One
you.
time, God, the one time. Smite me.
Your parents got you for dancing or
he's like,
whatever
nope.
it was. Yeah. So, but we live in fear. We're in constant fear of what God's going to do. But there is a side of this that gets a lot. I hate this side of it, but it turns out it's true. And I didn't know about this growing up. Every once in a while, you would hear something. When we were in, I think it was New Mexico, maybe it was Texas. I don't remember. There was a pastor that did something. I
was very young.
I
You're
know.
much older than I am.
3 years, yes.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Extinguished.
yeah. So I'm surprised I'm even here. I'm so old. So, there was a pastor that did something to a little boy in the church, and my dad was dealing with all that. We ended up leaving that church because of that situation, and I don't even remember what it was. We were very young at the time. So we didn't get all the details of what was going on, but I remember there was an issue, and years later I was talking to my dad about that, and he didn't go into detail about it, but he said there was abuse being done to this little boy within the church, and I couldn't tell you the nature of what that abuse was, but it really bothered me that would happen within a church. It was very surprising to me that this would happen in the church. And now in 2026, how many times have we heard in the last few years
Right.
Yeah.
about things that happened in the
Yeah.
church? Several years ago, there was a big thing on in the Catholic Church. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Definitely.
The priests and all that, and then there were a lot of jokes and a lot of conversations about
You still hear 'em?
Catholic priests and what they would do, and make sure you have somebody with you when you go into a Catholic church and all that. Which, of course, not all Catholic priests were doing that, and of course that put a
The stigma sits on top of theology
because
altogether. Yeah.
but I am a pastor. I pastor this church here, and there's people that when they find out you're a pastor, like, no thanks, and walk away. I didn't say anything to them. I didn't do anything to make them not want to be around me, but they don't want to.
Right.
And that So this legalism category goes into a lot deeper, darker stuff than just make the kid obey the rules. No running in church. I ran in church. There was one time that I was talking in church because I had something important to say. I don't remember what it was, but apparently it was worth whatever risk came with that.
That's some risk.
Yeah, and my mom and dad were sitting on the other side of the auditorium, and I was sitting with a friend, and I thought, there's no way they can reach me. I'm perfectly safe.
That hand behind the head.
Right, they're not going to reach me. And I'm talking to my friend in church, and I look across the auditorium, and my mom shot those eyes across the room, and then I whispered to my friend one more time because, well, I guess I'm going to die anyway. Might as well let him know why. I'm like, my mom's going to kill me for talking to you. And he said, how do you? She doesn't even see you. And I said, look. And he looked, and he never said another word.
Oh, wow.
I think my mom gave him the look too, and he's like, I get it. Then he stopped talking. Afterwards, I had to go to the pastor in front of everybody and apologize to the pastor for talking in church because this righteous living thing, it was heavy. But I didn't understand the extent of how bad legalism could get and what it does. So a lot of people don't want to come to church, and the number one reason is because the church is full of hypocrites,
right.
is what they say. I always thought that was just an excuse.
Yeah. Well, when you opened, you mentioned the word fundamentalism as well.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people who recognize fundamentalists as a group of their own. And fundamentalist is a very legalistic group of people in that aspect of living by rules, working unto righteousness. By the way, the Bible never tells us we're working unto righteousness.
Right.
We got righteousness when we got Jesus Christ.
That's right,
Savior.
yes.
We became
Right.
righteous at that time.
Right.
Does that mean we cannot sin?
We sure can.
We have the ability, but we have righteousness because we've taken on His righteousness.
Right.
So working unto righteousness becomes very confusing. And if there's anyone out there who's in a legalistic background and that fundamentalist home structure, it's hard to see past it because everything seems to have something in the Bible that fits.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's always a verse.
But you guys have mentioned this over and over again. Just read the verses before and after and guess what's usually there.
Right, yeah.
And so much of it comes from Leviticus, but there's so many things that they don't follow. But there are also leaders in these movements.
Yes.
I remember when we were children, there was a huge seminar that would go all over the country, and I went to that seminar, and they handed out these beautifully bound books. I still have one. It's such a beautiful book.
Nostalgia
and you
right there.
open it up, and it's like, oh, it's got so much nice stuff. It talks about the umbrella of authority within the home, which, by the way,
Yes.
there's biblical aspects
Sure,
to that.
yeah.
Leadership structure. But then it goes into all these things about you live by these rules, and you get to this one section within it, and it talks about what happens if you don't. All the bad things in life, that's God coming after you for what you
If you get in a
did
car
do.
accident, he got you.
Right.
Right.
And all of a sudden, that's when it just hits so heavy, and
Yeah.
there's a fear to step away and even to think
Right.
about not living that legalistic way.
Yeah.
The thought of it is just
Right.
incomprehensible because that's going to lead me to a point where I could lose a family member.
Yes.
My dog might die.
Right.
I could stub my toe. Everything that happens now is, what did I do that caused God to do that to
Right.
me? That steps in with that type of a movement. And that whole thing went through back in the 90s, I guess it was. And there are a lot of very famous homes that people would recognize today if we were to name drop here. That teaching is in those homes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it is a sad thing when you see children grow up that way and live in fear. Now they're taught about Jesus Christ. They're taught about the blood of Christ that saves sin.
Sure. Yeah.
But works is required
Right.
to have righteousness.
Right.
How can we require works to righteousness if we have the righteousness of Christ?
Yeah, that's something you didn't understand because they were two different topics.
Yeah. It really was. And it becomes very confusing for the young people living in those homes. And that's a group that, my family, we know a lot of people that are in these family structures. And the change that it makes within a home, the teaching that they have, and the way that it affects their lifestyle, it is just very sad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give any specific families,
Right.
but I do know several of these families, and I can tell you, even if you were to grow up and leave one of these homes, and you don't follow exactly what the family did, watch out for the family prayer meetings.
Family
Oh
prayer
my,
meetings.
when we bring it to God, that moment to bring it to God means that your 7-year-old brother or sister will be hearing all the trash about you.
Oh yes.
Because
that's
mom and dad
true.
are about to spill the beans of everything you've done in
To
your life.
pray for so-and-so,
Because
yeah.
we need to pray for your sibling. So as an adult,
Wow.
you know that when you don't follow mom and dad's rules under their umbrella of authority, you're going to hear from your siblings how much you are in sin because of the family prayer time.
Right.
So even things of that nature
That's
become a
deep.
weapon used against you within the home.
Yeah. All in the umbrella of righteousness.
That's right.
Yeah, trying to get you, rein you back into behaving yourself.
Because we're just praying for it.
Right. So you didn't have that kind of stuff, Ashton, growing up, that depth of the family prayer meetings or anything, or did
Well,
you?
not to my knowledge. It probably happened.
They were all happening when you
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
when I was
You weren't
not in
part
the
of those
house.
meetings. Yeah. Right.
Man, I mean, I guess to a point. And I don't remember if I touched on this when we did the whole gossip episode or not. But you know, my dear sweet mother, like she does have a heart of gold.
Sure.
But man, when something happens, everybody in her phone will know about it.
Okay.
And that's her version of, well, the more people know, the more prayers can be
Right.
said on your behalf.
Right.
Well, if they don't pray, what do they have? The information that I screwed up and did something dumb. And it's like, okay. And yeah, that I guess that I'm going to throw that in the bucket of, yes, prayer group, because it might as well just be a gossip house at that point.
Yeah, it wasn't a family prayer group. It was a social media prayer
Yes,
group or something
the
like
family.
that. Yeah, that's right. The family of God will come together. It's like an intervention.
oh,
Let's help them out.
We've all heard of the old ladies sitting around in the nursery, ministering as they're talking, gossiping, or the old
Yes.
man in the bus barn getting the buses ready, and what
Yeah.
are they doing? But what we don't recognize is how often it is just within the home that
Right,
gossip
yeah.
takes
Yeah.
place.
So with this idea of legalism, Paul has to hit this in the Bible too, and we should bring up a few verses here because we do it every episode. But this is the topic that we're talking about here with legalism, and Paul does address this. It's in 1 Corinthians 10:23. It says, "All things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but not all things edify." So I have a freedom in Christ. I can do whatever I want, but not everything's beneficial.
Right.
If I decide to go get drunk, is it lawful for me to do it? I'm not under the law anymore. Sure, I could go do that. Is it beneficial? Does it edify? Absolutely not. So he's saying, yes, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful, not all things edify. Let no one seek his own. Okay, that's a big thing. Let no one seek his own, but each one the other's well-being. Eat whatever is sold in the meat market, asking no questions for conscience sake. So at this time, they would have the temple, temple of Diana or whatever. They would sacrifice meat on the altar. And then they would sell that same meat in a marketplace. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just meat. If you go ahead and sacrifice a cow to some god, and you have a slab of ribeyes there that you got for sale over in the
Sounds
marketplace,
delicious.
hook me up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
I'm in.
mind. Yeah, I want that. But there was a stigma of don't eat that because it was all offered to false idols, and what would God think of that? So some people were thinking about that. It says, eat whatever is sold in the meat market, asking no questions for conscience sake. So don't wonder, should I or shouldn't I do it? It's okay. It's lawful. Go ahead and get that. For the earth is the Lord's and all its fullness. If any of those who do not believe invites you to dinner and you desire to go, eat whatever is set before you, asking no question for conscience sake. Go ahead. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But if anyone says to you, this was offered to idols, do not eat it for the sake of the one who told you and for conscience sake. So, okay, now I've got to be worried about it? No, it's not your conscience you're worried about at that point. you don't have to do it for your own conscience sake because you know you're not under the law. But now this person says, hold on, that was offered to idols. And you realize, okay, they have a conscience issue going on here. They think, okay, this is bad if I were to do this. It says, conscience, I say, not your own, but that of the other.
Yeah.
Because you know you're not, it's just a ribeye. Eat it. And I'm like, yes, please, I'll take 2. And I might leave here and talk about gluttony later. But I'm eating both of those ribeyes. I love ribeye. So it says, I say not your own, but that of the other. For why is my liberty judged by another man's conscience? But if I partake with thanks, why am I evil spoken of for the food over which I gave thanks? Therefore, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do all to the glory of God. So Paul's saying, eat it. There's nothing wrong with that. All things are lawful. Go ahead and eat it. But when you see your brothers saying, hold on, I have an issue with that, he says, hold on, don't eat it. Because of their conscience sake. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because who's the weak one in this context? Is it Paul? Is he the spiritually weak one who's saying, yes, let's eat the ribeye? Or is it the guy that comes up and saying, we need to follow the rules and not eat the ribeye?
Right.
Which one's the weaker one? It's the one trying to follow all the rules. So legalism doesn't make you spiritually strong. It actually makes you spiritually weak.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to do all the rule keeping, all the law keeping to make sure God's happy, but there's no spiritual growth that comes with that.
Right.
You have a fear of, is God going to smite me? You're worried about what everybody else is thinking. You're worried about if you're going to get your rewards in heaven. You're worried about if your rewards are going to get burned up. You're worried about the judgment seat of Christ. And all of those things, we've done episodes on all of those. There are no rewards for you in heaven outside of Jesus Christ. You're not getting mansions. You're not getting gold, silver, precious stones. You don't have to worry about things getting burned up. You don't have to stand before the judgment seat of Christ as a child of God because there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. There is no judgment for you if you're in Christ. And those are episodes. Go to our website, burntonreligion.com. and go back and look for those topics. We have episodes on those, and it puts those topics into context. But a lot of people worry about that legalistically. So Paul is pointing out that the weaker one is actually the legalistic one.
Yep.
Not the one that says, hey, look at this. I'm free in Christ.
Right.
And I'm free indeed. Now you can grow spiritually. Not the guy that's not eating the ribeye. Like, yeah, man, that's not freedom. That's bondage. That's bondage. So Paul even deals with this topic, but in 2026, we still have this issue going on. So we've got a few more minutes here, and I want to go into the dark side of this thing real quick because it gets really dark really fast. Or darker, yeah.
Oh, my.
I mean, everything's darker than ribeye.
Yeah.
So, yeah, ribeye's like, no, that ribeye's great. Angels smile, light comes down, the opera singing happens, when ribeyes show up. So everything's darker than that. But there's a lot of abuse, a lot of sexual abuse in churches. There's a lot of kids that end up growing up to become the abuser in these churches because they were raised. That's how you deal with issues. And the thing is, those issues are never brought before the law. So I am like a mandatory reporter as a pastor. If I see abuse, I have to report that abuse. But there's in a lot of churches, they don't report it because they take the passage in 2 Corinthians of why can't you deal with your problems within the church. What they were doing was saying they were suing each other for everything. And Paul's like, why don't you take care of your problems within the church rather than taking all your dirty laundry and airing it out for the world? These are small things. You could deal with this. You don't have to sue each other for everything. But they take that little thing and say, oh, hold on, we should deal with everything within the church. So there are pastors that are part of sexual abuse.
Yep.
The priests, we talked about the Catholic churches and stuff. And then what do? They sweep it under the carpet. Mm-hmm. They might church discipline you. If you're in the ministry, they might send you to another church and hide the whole issue.
Instead of allowing people to see what's there, we got to get rid of the problem.
Because we don't want to hurt the Lord's ministry. We don't want to cast a shadow or stain the pure white image that we're trying to portray as a church. So we hide the problem or we send the problem away. And these kids grow up broken and want nothing to do with God. They want nothing to do with
The
church.
sad thing is, it doesn't just happen in the church background. In a church, you know, you go in, you put on your show, and everything looks fine, but then they leave and they go home. And
Yeah.
so many of these families have a lineage of abuse of any form. Sometimes it's anger issues. So, I mean, when they present themselves in front of other believers, everything is fine and dandy. They
Right.
put on that Christian smile.
Yes.
We had that missionary smile as kids. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like, guys, we're here. It's time to put on those smiles.
Yeah.
Walk in. We were just fighting before that, but hey,
Yeah.
that's their life. They're always, when they're in the
There's a
presence of
show.
others, there's
Yeah.
a big show. But then they go home and dad hits mom. Sometimes dad hits the kids. Whatever may take place.
Which, by the way, in our defense, our parents never did that.
We never had
once.
that.
We didn't grow up with that, but we do know it happened.
Without name dropping, I could mention people who have gone through that. We've seen this happen multiple times in the past, and that passes on. If
Yeah.
and these children continue in fundamentalism, they continue in legalism, and they continue to live this life that they saw displayed in their home, and they pass it along to their children and their children after that. If you're living a life that's fake, you're going to produce, well, an aspect of fruit that we shouldn't be displaying.
Right.
Christ is not fake.
No. No.
The righteousness that we have in him should be displayed through us.
Right.
The fruit of the Spirit is truly his fruit. It's
Yes.
not ours.
Yeah.
And they're working so hard to display their own fruit
Right.
that in the end they miss it. Their children see that at home, but they have to maintain that image because they were taught their whole life.
Yeah.
You have to do this. If you don't, God's gonna
gonna
come
get
at
you.
you. Not
Yeah.
mom and dad. It's gonna be God this
Right.
time.
Yeah.
And you're going to pay that price. So they continue the same thing, but they continue to behave the same way as their families did. And you see it happen. It keeps hitting the news over and
Yeah.
over again that you see it, whether it be sexual abuse, physical abuse, whatever it is.
Right.
And you wonder, what is wrong in these homes? It's because you're not living your life focused on having that relationship with God as much as you are on the image.
Right.
There was a group of people in the Bible that Christ called out many times.
Yeah. Yes.
And you know exactly what I'm
Yes,
talking
I
about.
do. Yes.
Whited sepulchres, he says. Now, I'm not saying that I don't believe that fundamentalists or people who are legalistic in some ways can be saved. Those Pharisees
Sure.
were not.
Right. Right.
But when you take on the attitude of working your way to righteousness and you're putting it on as a front, you're fitting yourself right into the same aspect as those Pharisees. Maybe you do have a relationship with God. Maybe you are on your way to heaven, but you're living a path that's leading to destruction. And I can tell you, I know there's probably a lot of fundamentalists or legalistic home children who really don't have a full understanding what salvation really is.
Right.
They really see it as a works because the focus is more on their works than it is on the relationship
Right.
that they should have with
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And a lot of times, kids grow up. This happens to a lot of us. We see God the same way we see our Father.
Yeah.
You know, in the home. So if you have a loving father who nurtures you and stuff like that, you see God that way. But if you have an abusive father, you see God that way. So you raise the next generation to, hey, you better get in line, because He will give you a bloody lip.
Yeah.
You know, because and
Yeah.
sometimes that comes with a car or a meteor or whatever God wants to use.
That was a teaching that's inside that seminar. Was God is going to come and get you if you don't live
Right.
your life in line. You obey your parents. You do this as you're supposed to, or else that accident's coming.
Right. You can live in a wheelchair the rest of your life.
Yeah.
There was real quick, I know we're running out of time here. I listened to PBD podcast, and one of his lessons for the day, he does a lot of business leadership and then a lot of household activities and things like that. And one of his little segments was about who's really raising your kids, whether it's the school, the church,
Right.
your phone, YouTube, the TV,
Yeah.
and his big emphasis was this one was about trying to be the best father that you can be, and he says the one thing kids strive for is that bonding with with the parent. And he says, of course, he pulled up all kinds of stats and stuff. And one shocked me was, even if you spend 30 minutes a day with your child, they will think the world of you.
Yes.
If you see what they're learning in school, you can help correct things. And he even said this, he's down in Florida, he goes to this big church, and he says, there's one thing I didn't agree with, but, I talk to my kids. And he says, if you're not the one teaching your kids, somebody else is going to teach them.
Yes.
And who do you want them to learn from?
Right.
How do you want them to learn? And he says, I agree with it. It's 100% on you. It's your household, your family. And if you're off doing something else besides working, who's teaching them? And
somebody is.
That resonated with me a lot, and it helped me. I try to be involved with the church and try to reflect too, but at the same time, man, I gotta rearrange some stuff. I gotta put priorities in different orders and stuff because, even today, I forget how many hours a day the average kid is on YouTube.
I know, yeah.
Or watching a TV or watching movies, and it's just like, what am I doing, and what are they doing?
Right.
And it's crazy. And unfortunately, a lot of stuff, even circling back through the church, there's a lot of horror stories, a lot of things that, one of the reasons, there's many reasons why we started this podcast, but man, I get it. I understand why people want nothing to do with church. And it's just the level, the different types of abuse and lack of learning, lack of teaching, lack of accountability. Like, hey, I messed up. I shouldn't have said this in this sermon or whatever. Right. Yeah. And it all comes full circle. So it's
I highly recommend anybody listening, if you grew up in church or you've been around religious people and you say, I'm never going to be part of that again. Shame on them for what they did. It was people. It wasn't God. It wasn't God who did this. It was people that represented God poorly. Context is everything. So even in the home, like you said, if you're not teaching your kids, somebody else is. Make sure you're teaching your kids context.
That's right.
Our church is all about this thing. We've got the front of our church, you drive up, it says it on a sign out there. When you get into our auditorium, we have 2 big banners on the walls that say it's not about religion, it's about relationship. And it is all about relationship. What legalism is missing is relationship, because it's all rules, it's all religion. And we need to pray for churches out there that do this kind of stuff to these kids and to these adults. You're shaming them into righteous living, and that's not what it's about. Righteous living, all righteous living it's a really simple definition. Live out of your love and gratitude for God. That's it.
That's it.
He already made you righteous at salvation. Now you reflect that back to Him through your love and gratitude. That is righteous living. That's all there is. So legalism, we shoot it down. We just destroy this thing. Quicker the better.
Yes.
But legalism goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden when Satan tempts Eve, says, you want to be more like God? All you've got to do is apply self-effort.
That's right.
That's all you've got to do. That was the temptation in the Garden of Eden, is self-effort, not obedience, not just doing what God said, but self-effort. And that's what brings in a lot of sin, and it has come into the church. So if you got a bad taste in your mouth over church, we ask you to check it out again. But seek a church. Write to us. Questions at burntonreligion.com. We'll find a church in your area, or we'll try our best to guide you to. We'll do the work. We'll do the footwork for you. Just write to us at questions at burntonreligion, and we want to help all of you get Scripture into context. That's what we want to do. That's what this whole podcast is about. So, Jeremy, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All the way from New Jersey just to come here to the Midwest, right here in Pennsylvania, just for this episode right here. No, he came for a lot of other reasons. But thank you for having the time to just join us here today. So, you guys have anything else to add to this fun little topic of legalism?
I'd like to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
To those who are living in this legalistic life, and you've grown up with it, and now you're adults, it can change. You just have to be willing to step aside from it.
Yes.
Make that decision to make your relationship with Jesus Christ the priority, not worry about what everyone else
Amen.
thinks of you, how you come across, your first impression, your last impression.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. What matters is that you have that relationship and walk with
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Right.
And it might be hard because your family may not understand, but you can change that pattern of destruction that takes
Yeah.
place in the home.
And we are proof of that. So thank you guys for all listening. We really do appreciate you. Remember, like, share, subscribe, follow, whatever. Word of mouth. We need you to do that because what you're doing makes it possible for us to get out farther in the world. We can't do it without you. So thank you for what you're doing. I think that's all we got for today. So you come join us next week and we'll be right here. So have a good one.